Taxman here with an announcement that I will be playing Strategic Command War in Europe with the Total Realism Project by Lothos against Old Crow Balthazor. I'm currently scheduled to be releasing episodes on October 1st. I'm recording this at the end of July, so there'll be some break before actually going up, and they're subject to maybe slight alteration to the start date. But we're currently scheduled for October to have this go up October 1st. One cute little thing I'm going to be doing is using song titles for the episodes. Now, there are a huge number of turns in this game, so I don't have song titles for every single episode planned out, and some of them are going to be based on events that happen or just things along those lines, and there will be a good number of them that I won't have a song title for the episode. So in those cases, if you see an episode without a title, more than happy to take suggestions, and if I find a good one or one that seems to fit, I'll edit my thumbnail and include your title and give you credit in the comments. The only rules is that I want the actual true song title. If there's additional words as part of the lyrics that help make it more clear, that's okay. But what I don't want is as much fun as it could be. I don't want alterations to the title. So no Jerry's wanted just to have fun or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to quickly go over the agreed upon house rules. Oops. Here. Just quickly go over these. These will be posted in the turns, as long with a link to Old Crow Balthazor's site, though I suspect in most cases people will be coming here from his site. So basically these are mostly the suggested house rules with some tweaks. The ones that are particularly different than the TRP baseline suggested house rules I'll mention here. So we're not allowing the Axis to declare war on the USSR before April 1941 unless the mobilization reaches the point where the USSR is about to jump in. We're not, either of us are not the type of players that do that, and this is more along the lines to stop some of the shenanigans that we've seen in the base game, where people declare war during the winter 40 so as to cause the winter effect to do minimal damage to Germany, because they'll hardly have any units in Russia when it happens. Personally, I don't care about this one, because I think if Germany's going to attack Russia that soon, they're going to really pay for it badly in this mod. But that was we're including it anyway. Number 2 is probably also not truly necessary due to changes of the way Lothos made to the map. It makes using the Kiel Canal for the Allies much harder, but we're still going to include this in there just to just to make sure it's set in stone. I think it's very unlikely the Allied player would be able to do this, to use the Kiel, to snag the Kiel Canal and sail ships through there early. Okay, the next one is a slight modification. The regular TRP house rule is that Germany can't start the attack on the Low Countries until the first turn of May, which winds up being relatively deep into May because there's an April 30th turn. So we're allowing Germany to get a 1 turn head start with our rules, and even that's going to be probably somewhat iffy, because you could get some bad weather at that time. So it may actually wind up being a normal house rule game where, or not, depends on the weather. So that's a little pro-German or pro-Axis modification. A lot of these other ones are anti-Axis, and I will point out that a lot of these are ones that Old Crow wants to put on himself. So, for example, this one about the Finnish units can't go south of the Riga-Moscow-Perm line. I'm gonna quickly edit this as we correct the little grammar Nazi that I am, or tend to be. No, I'm not very good at it, but anyway. So no Finnish units south of that line, with the exception of the Special Forces unit. Hungarian units can't enter Romania. If the German Second Vienna Award grants Hungary, okay, that's no Romanian units in Hungary if the Second Vienna. But basically, if the treaty, if the treaty is put in, which it usually will be, unless someone's got something fancy planned, then the units can't go in. Now, of course, we're not going to allow units to be destroyed if they retreat in there during the Russia's pushback. So that's it's basically no voluntarily moving in there. Number 6 is no Scando Gambit. So basically, the Allies can't invade Norway or Denmark while those countries are neutral, or until France falls. 7, no Allied. All right, blocking of travel hexes if Gibraltar axis controlled. Again, this is the transit hexes are a little different in TRP than they are in the base game, and they are hidden to the Allied player. So it's basically no intentional finding out where they are and sitting on them. But you can be on them accidentally, just because sometimes the Allied player is moving stuff back and forth into the med, and then they have a unit sit on it by accident. 8, Italian transports destined for Ethiopia, and I assume this is also in the reverse, must travel as fast as possible or neutral, no uses spotters or other cheesy moves. Basically, you're not going to send little garrison transports through the Red Sea and then out to act as cheap little scan for units and stuff. Vigo and the Canary Island. This is one that Old Crow wanted to put in number 9 here because he wanted, the actual restriction was, each of those hexes is like 3 miles and stuff. But I argued against somewhat, then we came up with this compromise, which basically goes back to the general house rule, where it's very close to the general house rule. And the reason for this is that sometimes you don't want to actually be in the port hex because you're trying to just draw supply, and you may have multiple subs trying to draw supply from the port. So basically, no bombing of the ports, of those of the Spanish ports, or the hexes immediately adjacent to the ports, which will cover most of those hexes in those sea zones. If you're not familiar with TRP, I will be covering some little comments as I go along. I'm not really going to go and do a whole how TRP is different from the base game. For that, I may provide a link to Lothos's webpage himself, where he covers a lot of that himself and goes over some of the more tactical ways that, in more detail than I will, that the TRP mod makes to the base game. No Bulgarian units in Russia unless Moscow or Baku is Axis controlled. This isn't too big of a deal to me one way or the other. This is something Old Crow wanted. Simply is some historical attack, some historical thing, and basically the Bulgarian units would just be used to garrison the Balkans and stuff. No Hungarian, Romanian, Bulgarian mainline units in France or Italy. Same deal. Same deal with that. And by that, I assume he means basically the land units for the most part. I'm assuming this is allowing any special units or headquarters and fighters or something to go over there to help defend. But I'm not too worried about it. The only reason we're probably going over a lot of these is in case we switch sides and play another game at some point in the future. Capital can only be struck once per turn by an AVL strike. So one of the things we found is it can be expensive for the Allies to do this, but it is easy to make an alpha strike on Rome is the biggest one to be worried about, where you just launch a whole bunch of AVLs, knock the entrenchment off of it with AVL strikes, bomb it down, and then just have a final AVL landing there while not having to fight it all up the boot to do this, or at the very least go make invasions in the surrounding sites and attack it that way. So we're going to prevent that, and this will also affect some various other capitals that are on sea coasts. Thinking mostly North Africa and Lisbon and places like that. Airborne units must wait 2 full turns before paradropping again. So basically, this isn't as much of a problem with the most recent changes the developers made to the base game. But basically, we don't want paratroopers to land on a turn, prepare the next turn, and then immediately jump right after that. Again, it's not, basically it's just to prevent the leapfrogging through empty towns in Russia. Is one of the things TRP does is adds a lot more little towns, so there aren't those supply deserts that there are in the base game. So the developers added some rules to make it a lot harder for airborne use. They can't quite abuse it with the forced march and prep, or things like that. So now this is just to stop the drop prep so method. And lastly, we've decided, and this one's mostly mine, is to granulize particularly the Allied victory conditions that TRP has. It's no longer just all Allied victories are decisive victories. It kind of granulated it out down here with basically, to get a decisive victory, the Axis has to be conquered by the end of 45, a major is by the end of 46, and a minor is by the end of the normal clock. I'm not sure if it's the end of 47 or a particular date in 47, but anyway, there's that, and then there's some other tweaks, because if you go to the actual victory conditions in the TRP mod, it's a little it needs some editing. I've mentioned this to Lothos, but it needs some minor editing. Anyway, those are our house rules. Like I said, we'll be currently planning on posting turns to YouTube on October 1st, and I hope to see you then. Now, my advice for those that die is to declare the pennies on your eyes. Taxman out.